Hi, my name's Chris and I'm in Cambridge, England. Today I'm going to talk through a couple of the ways that we can create submixes in Ableton Live. I'm using Live 9 here, but the same concepts apply in other versions too. For this video I'm going to be using the session view rather than the arrange view, because the view of the channel strip is clearer. We can do the same sorts of things in the arrange view, but it's a little bit more awkward. So I've got a session here with 6 tracks, 4 drum tracks, 4 drum and percussion tracks, a bass, and a synth track. I'd like to create a submix for my drums so that I can control their level and apply some processing to them all at once. There's actually a couple of ways to do this in Live. One is quite similar to how we might do it in another DAW using a summing bus, and there's another much simpler way that's specific to Live itself. We'll look at the first of those two first, however. What I'm going to need to do first is create a new audio track. So we right click here and select Insert Audio Track, or you can press Ctrl T. We will rename this to Drum Submix and just drag it over to put it next to our drums. In order to set up the routing for these tracks, we need to click the I/O button here, and that will open this section here that allows us to configure where audio is routed around Ableton Live. First of all, on this track we need to actually disable the input, otherwise it will try and take audio from our audio interface into this track as well, and we don't want that. We just want it to be a submix for the drum tracks. So now we've done that, we need to route the audio from each of the drum tracks here into our submix track. So on each of the drum tracks we change the audio to drum submix. And this is now sending the audio to the drum submix channel. However, that's not the last thing we need to do. We need to change this monitor here from off to in. This means that now the channel will always be listening to its inputs. If it's auto, it will only ever be listening to its inputs when record is selected, and if it's off, it will never be listening to its inputs. So now if I click play, you can see that the drums are now being routed through this drum submix. If I mute the channel, the drums are muted. If I solo the channel, the drums are soloed, and I can control the volume of the channel like that, just as I would with any other. I can drop a compressor or some other effects on this channel. And yeah, just like that, that's now acting as a submix channel. So that's how we do this using audio routing, and it's very similar to how other DAWs work by manually routing the audio output of tracks into the audio input of another track. However, there's a much simpler way to do this in Live, and I'll show you how to do that now. So here we are back at the start again, and like I say, I'll show you now how to create a submix in a much more simple way using Live. This way we don't need to worry about setting up the routing ourselves, as Live handles it all for us. And the way you do it, you simply click the first track that you want to include in the submix, hold down Shift and click the last track, and that will select a range of tracks. You can press and hold down Control and click on tracks if you only want to include some of them, but here we want to include all of them. Then right click on any one of those selected tracks and click Group Tracks, or press Ctrl G. And you can see what it's done here. It's created a group track that contains all of the 4 drum tracks that we had earlier, and if we open the I/O, we can see that all of their outputs have been routed to this group track. And if we play, therefore, we can see if we disable that group, can't hear the drums anymore. We can solo that group, change the volume, and so forth, and also drop effects on the group, like we did before. And that's a much simpler way than setting up the routing yourself. The only disadvantage of this method compared to setting up the routing yourself is that you can't create groups of groups. So say I have a bunch of percussion tracks and I want to submix those into a single channel and then take that submix and mix it in with the rest of the drums and create a submix out of that. I can't do that with groups, but I can do it using the routing method I described earlier, where you set it up yourself. Okay, well that's it. That's how you create submixes in Ableton Live. I hope that was useful, and thanks for watching.